Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about unlikely roommates. If you have a pet, you know the quiet comfort of their presence. The soft purr of a cat curled up on your lap, the gentle thud of a dog's tail against the floor. It's a simple, ancient friendship. But what if your roommate wasn't a house cat? What if it was, bigger, with significantly larger teeth and a roar that could shake the dust from the rocks? Tonight, we're journeying back to the strange and beautiful world of the early Christian ascetics, to meet a man who found God in the silence of the desert, and whose only companion was a wild lion. This isn't just a quirky animal story, it's a profound legend about what it means to heal, to trust, and to find a sliver of paradise in the loneliest place on earth. It's one of the stories of God you don't know. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small, quiet gesture that helps this community of late-night history wanderers grow. And as always, I love seeing where you're all listening from. Go ahead and drop your city or country and the time in the comments. It's a wonderful way to feel connected in our shared stillness. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are standing in the heart of a city, but the ground beneath your leather sandals is not dirt. It is marble, worn smooth by the footsteps of 1,000 years. The year is somewhere in the early 5th century, and the city is mere Baselian port on the southern coast of Lycia, what is now modern-day Turkey. The air is thick, a heavy blanket woven from the smells of salt from the sea, drying fish from the harbor, and the sharp, sweet scent of cedarwood being loaded onto a waiting merchant ship. The sun is a relentless white-hot hammer in a bleached blue sky. This is the Roman Empire, not the old toga-wearing Caesarian legion's empire of history books, but its powerful, Christianized, Greek-speaking eastern half, the one we now call Byzantium. It is a world of immense complexity, a world of noise. You try to think, but it's impossible. The noise is constant. From the harbor comes the rhythmic creak of ropes against wood, the shouts of sailors in a dozen different languages, the crack of a foreman's whip. From the marketplace behind you comes the endless chatter of commerce, the clatter of coins, the haggling over the price of Egyptian grain and Syrian silk. From a nearby workshop, you hear the relentless clang-clang-clang of a blacksmith's hammer. It's the 5th century version of living next to a highway and a construction site simultaneously. With no noise-canceling headphones in sight, you walk through the streets, a river of people flowing around you. Soldiers in their segmented armor swagger past. Merchants in fine-dyed tunics whisper deals in shaded porticos. Government officials, looking harried and important, stride by with scrolls tucked under their arms. It is a world of rules, of laws, of taxes. A world of social obligations. You must bow to the right person. Use the correct honorific, not make eye contact with the wrong person. It is exhausting. It feels like you are performing a part in a play you never auditioned for, and you are terrified of forgetting your lines. Even faith, which should be a refuge, is noisy here. The city is Christian, yes, but it is a complicated, argumentative Christianity. The great theological debates from the councils of Nicaea and Constantinople have trickled down into the streets. You can overhear two men in the market arguing fiercely about the very nature of Christ. Was he of the same substance as the Father, or merely of a similar substance? It's the kind of high-stakes theological distinction that has started riots. It's less about quiet contemplation and more like a burning, empire-wide flame war fought with dogma instead of comments. Historians still debate how deeply these theological nuances affected the average person. Was the typical shopkeeper genuinely losing sleep over the Arian controversy? Or was this a preoccupation of the educated elite, later projected onto the masses by the monks who wrote the histories? For you, it doesn't matter. What you feel is a spiritual weariness. You feel buried under the weight of it, all the commerce, the politics, the arguments, the sheer crushing busyness of being a person in a sophisticated late antique world. You duck into the shade of an alleyway to catch your breath. You lean against a stone wall, the rock still warm from the sun. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, you long for the opposite of all this. You long for silence. For simplicity, you long for a single, clear, uncomplicated truth. You long for emptiness, and your gaze drifts eastward, past the harbor and the ships and the noisy, striving city, toward the hazy sun-baked hills that eventually, miles and miles away, bleed into the great, quiet, terrifying emptiness of the desert. And you feel a pull, a quiet, insistent whisper that promises nothing but sand, and sun, and silence, and God. That pull you feel, that longing for the quiet emptiness, is not unique to you. It is the defining spiritual movement of your age. You live in a time when the Roman Empire has officially become Christian. The persecutions are over. The faith has won. But for some devout souls, this victory feels like a kind of defeat. Christianity has become comfortable, mainstream, tangled up in the power and politics of the empire. It has become, in a word, easy. And so, a new kind of spiritual athlete emerges. One who seeks not the easy path, but the hardest one imaginable. They are the desert fathers and mothers, the founders of monasticism. They are practicing something called anachoresis. It is a Greek word that literally means withdrawal or retreat. Originally, it was a secular term used to describe peasants who would flee to the countryside to escape the crushing taxes of the government. But now, it has taken on a new, spiritual meaning. You are not fleeing the tax collector. You are fleeing the world itself. You are fleeing the noise, the distractions, the endless temptations, the comfortable Christianity of the city. You are fleeing anything that stands between your soul and a direct, unmediated encounter with God. This is not a casual decision. It is not like deciding to go on a weekend camping trip to get away from it all. It is a permanent, radical, life-altering choice. It is a kind of living martyrdom. The old martyrs died for their faith in the arena, a quick, bloody, and public affair. You are choosing a new kind of martyrdom, a slow, quiet, lifelong battle, fought not against lions and gladiators, but against your own inner demons, your own weaknesses, your own thoughts. The desert is your new arena, so you begin to prepare. You divest yourself of everything you own. If you have a house, you sell it and give the money to the poor. If you have a business, you give it away. You settle all your debts. You say goodbye to your family and friends, knowing you will likely never see them again. You are severing every tie that binds you to the world. It is a systematic process of emptying. You are trying to become a blank slate upon which only God can write. One evening, you walk out of the city gates for the last time. You carry almost nothing. A simple cloak of undyed wool to protect you from the sun by day and the cold by night. A staff to help you on the rocky ground. A small leather pouch containing a bit of dried bread and a flask of water just enough to last you a few days. And perhaps, a copy of the Psalms, your only book, your only companion. You do not look back. The sounds of the city, the shouting, the hammering, the commerce fade behind you. They are replaced by the soft crunch of your sandals on the dusty road. And then, as the road ends, on the gravel and sand of the wilderness, you are following a well-trodden, if lonely, path. You have heard the stories, the legends that are already spreading from traveler to traveler of the great saints of the Egyptian desert. You've heard of Antony the Great, the first hermit, who battled demons in a forgotten Roman fort for 20 years. You've heard of Pachomius, who organized the first communal monasteries, creating a city of God in the middle of the wasteland. You've heard of the Umas, the desert mothers, like Syncletica and Theodora, whose wisdom was as sharp and profound as any of the men's. These stories are your inspiration, your guidebook to this new, terrifying landscape. Historians still debate the motivations of these first monks. Was it a pure, spiritual quest, or was it also a form of social protest, a rejection of the rigid, hierarchical, and often corrupt society of the late Roman world? Was it an escape from military conscription, or crippling debt? For you, it is not that complicated. You are not running from the taxmen, you are running to God, and you believe, with every fiber of your being, that the shortest path to Him is through the vast, purifying silence of the desert. The sun sets, and the sky explodes into a riot of orange and purple. The air grows cold with a sudden, shocking speed. You huddle in your cloak behind a large boulder, gnawing on your dry bread. The silence is no longer a gentle absence of noise, it is a presence. It is a solid, ringing thing that presses in on you from all sides. For the first time, you are truly alone. Alone with the wind, the stars, and the raw, untamed landscape of your own soul. The journey has begun. You walk for days. The landscape of coastal hills and sparse vegetation gives way to something far more severe. You have entered the Judean desert, a vast, wrinkled ocean of rock and sand that stretches from the hills of Jerusalem down to the shores of the Dead Sea. This is not the beautiful, rolling sand dune desert of paintings. This is a hard, unforgiving, and dangerously real place. The sun is your first great opponent. It is not the familiar, hazy sun of the city. Here in the clear, dry air, it is a physical weight, a relentless presence that beats down on your head and shoulders from dawn until dusk. The heat is stunning. It radiates up from the pale, dusty ground, creating shimmering, watery mirages in the distance that promise relief but offer only disappointment. The rocks become too hot to touch. The very air seems to vibrate with heat. Your only defense is your simple wool cloak, which you drape over your head like the local Bedouins do, creating a small, personal pocket of shade. It's the 5th century equivalent of a personal tent, and about as effective. Then there is the silence. In the city, you longed for it. Here, you are drowning in it. It is a silence so profound that you begin to hear things you never knew existed. You hear the soft, insistent hiss of the wind as it scours the sand from the rocks. You hear the frantic dry scrabbling of a lizard dashing for cover. At night, you hear the distant yipping howl of a jackal. But most of all, you hear the sound of your own body. You hear the thumping of your own heart, a loud, panicked drum in your ears. You hear the blood rushing in your veins. You hear the soft, internal symphony of your own existence, a sound that has always been there but was drowned out by the noise of the world. It is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. And in this profound quiet, your mind, starved of external stimulation, begins to play tricks on you. This is the demon of Acedia, the noonday demon that the Desert Fathers wrote about so extensively. It is not a monster with horns and a pitchfork. It is a spiritual state, a profound listlessness and weariness of the soul that descends in the heat of the day. You sit in the sliver of shade offered by a rock outcropping, and your mind fills with 1,000 distractions. You suddenly remember a petty argument you had 10 years ago with perfect clarity. You crave, with an intensity that is almost painful, a specific meal you once ate, a piece of fish, perfectly grilled with lemon and herbs. You begin to question this entire endeavor. What are you even doing here? It feels pointless, absurd. The city, with all its noise and complexity, suddenly seems like a paradise. This is the first great test, the battle against your own restless mind. The physical dangers are real too. You learn to check your sandals before you put them on in the morning, shaking them out to dislodge any scorpions that might have sought refuge there during the night. You learn to recognize the slithering track of a horned viper in the sand. You are constantly thirsty, rationing the water from your flask, your tongue thick and dry in your mouth. You are not entirely alone. The desert is not empty, it is just sparsely populated. You might pass the occasional camel train, a line of silent, swaying shapes, moving along a distant ridge, the traders barely giving you a glance. Or you might stumble upon another hermit, another refugee from the world. The etiquette for such an encounter is simple and unspoken. You approach slowly. You might exchange a single word of greeting, peace. You might share a piece of your bread or a sip of your water. You do not ask where they are from, or what their story is. Such questions belong to the world you have left behind. You sit together in shared silence for a while, a quiet acknowledgement of your common purpose, and then you move on, each back to your own solitude. Historians still debate the true nature of the demons these ascetics fought. Were they literal, external beings, as the monks themselves believed, or were they powerful psychological projections, manifestations of loneliness, regret, hunger, and repressed desires, all brought to the surface by the sensory deprivation of the desert? Perhaps it's a distinction without a difference. Whether the demon is inside your head or outside your cave, the battle is just as real. And as you walk deeper into this ocean of sand, you know you are walking into the heart of that battle. After days of wandering, you realize that you cannot simply drift through this landscape forever. The goal of anachoresis is not endless walking. It is to find a place of stillness, a place to put down spiritual roots and begin the real work of prayer. You need a home, a hermitage, a cell. Your search now becomes more focused. You are not just looking for emptiness. You are looking for a very specific kind of emptiness, one that can sustain life, however barely. Your primary concern is water. Without a reliable water source, you will not survive a week. You begin to follow the dry riverbeds, the wadis, knowing that even a dry channel might lead to a hidden spring or a place where water collects after the rare winter rains. You look for clues in the landscape, a patch of unusually green scrub brush, a flight of birds descending to a particular spot. It is a slow, patient detective story, and your life depends on solving it. Finally, you find it. Tucked away at the base of a sheer rock cliff is a small seep, a tiny, miraculous trickle of water, cool and clear, emerging from a crack in the rock and collecting in a small, stone-lined pool. It is not a gushing spring, but it is enough. It is life. This will be your anchor. Now you need shelter. You are not a builder. You don't have tools to construct a hut. You must find what the landscape already provides. You scan the cliff face above the spring. It is pockmarked with natural openings, caves and overhangs carved out by millennia of wind and water. Most are too small or too exposed. But then you see it. About halfway up the cliff face, it is a dark, promising opening, protected by a slight overhang of rock. It looks safe. It looks defensible. It looks like home. The climb up is treacherous. The rock is brittle, and you must find handholds and footholds, your simple leather sandals slipping on the loose gravel. You finally pull yourself up and onto the ledge in front of the cave. The opening is just tall enough to enter without stooping. You step inside. The air is immediately, blessedly cool, a sudden relief from the oppressive heat outside. It smells of dry dust, of ancient stone, and faintly of old animal droppings. The cave is not large. It is perhaps twice the length of your body and a little wider. The floor is uneven, dusty rock. The back wall curves into darkness. This is it. This is your new address. There's no moving truck, no welcoming committee. Just you and the profound ancient silence of the stone. Now, the work of making it a home begins. This is not about decoration. It is about function and ritual. You spend the first day clearing the floor, sweeping out the loose stones and old debris with your hands. You find a large, relatively flat stone, and drag it to one side of the cave. This will be your altar, your place for prayer. You place your precious copy of the Psalms upon it. You find another, smaller stone to serve as a stool. You then venture out to prepare for the night. You gather armfuls of the dry, tough desert grasses and scrub brush. You carry them back up to the cave and arrange them in a pile at the back. This will be your bed. It will be scratchy, uncomfortable, and probably full of insects, but it is softer than bare rock. It is a luxury. You must also think about food. The bread you carried with you is long gone. You will not be hunting. Your diet will be the meager fare of the ascetic. You forage for the edible plants of the region. You find a few tough, bitter herbs. You discover a patch of saltbush, whose leaves, when boiled, are just about edible. Perhaps you are near a monastery, like the great Loras of Citus or Nit, and once a week you will make the long walk to their gates, where they will leave out a portion of dry bread and a handful of lentils for the solitary hermits like yourself. Historians still debate the logistics of survival for these solitary monks. How much contact did they truly have with the settled monastic communities? It was likely a delicate balance between extreme solitude and necessary, minimal contact for survival. As evening falls on your first day in your new home, you stand on the ledge outside your cave and look out over the vast, empty landscape. The sun is setting, painting the western sky in fiery strokes of orange and crimson. The rocks around you glow with a soft, warm light. You have a roof over your head. You have water in your flask. You have a place to pray. You have everything you need. You turn and re-enter the cool darkness of your cave, your first humble home, the place where you will fight your demons, and you pray, finally find your God. You have a home now, a small, dark space carved from the rock. But a cave is just a cave. To make it a hermitage, a true place of spiritual work, you must fill it with a rhythm. Your life, once dictated by the noisy, chaotic schedule of the city, will now be governed by a new kind of time, the slow, deliberate, and repeating cycle of prayer and labor. Your goal is to create a life so simple and so predictable that your mind has nothing to cling to but God. Your day begins before the sun. You are awakened not by a rooster or a bell, but by the subtle shift in the light, the first pale, gray hint of dawn in the eastern sky. You rise from your scratchy bed of grass, your joints stiff from the cold night air. You go to your stone altar, and you begin the first prayers of the day. You do not have a full liturgy book. You have the Psalms, and they will become the soundtrack to your entire existence. You begin to chant them from memory. Your low, quiet voice, a strange new sound in the immense silence of the desert. O Lord, my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. The words, composed thousands of years earlier by a shepherd king in these very same hills, feel startlingly immediate. You are not just reciting them, you are living them. The fortress of rock is literally all around you. You chant your way through the psalms of praise as the sun rises, its first rays striking the cliff face and turning the rock from gray to a warm, glowing pink dot. After your morning prayers, the first labor of the day begins. You must fetch water. You take a small pottery jug, climb down from your cave, and make your way to the seep. This is not a quick trip to the kitchen sink. It is a slow, meditative journey. You fill your jug with the cool, life-giving water and carry it carefully back up to your cell. This water is precious. You will use it for drinking, for softening your dry bread, and for the minimal washing your ascetic life requires. Then comes the main work of the day, the manual labor that the Desert Fathers called essential for keeping the demon of acedia at bay. An idle mind is a playground for demons, they taught, so an occupied hand is a form of prayer. Your work is weaving. You have gathered the long fibrous leaves of the desert palm trees. You spend hours sitting in the shade of your cave entrance, patiently splitting the fronds into thin strips and weaving them into rope, or into mats, or into simple baskets. The work is repetitive, monotonous, and deeply meditative. Your hands are busy, but your mind is free to continue your prayer. You weave, and you whisper psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Weave, whisper, whisper. The rhythmic motion of your hands becomes a kind of physical mantra. It is a way to be productive, to create something useful that you can perhaps trade for bread at the monastery. But its true purpose is to anchor your wandering mind. It's like a spiritual fidget spinner, giving the restless part of your brain something to do so the deeper part can be still and listen. At midday, when the sun is at its most brutal, you retreat into the cool darkness of your cave for the main meal of the day. Meal is a generous term. You take a piece of your hard, dry barley bread, the Paximadian of the desert monks, and you dip it into your cup of water to soften it enough to chew. You might eat it with a few salted olives or a handful of lentils. It is a meal of pure function, designed to keep your body alive, not to provide pleasure. You eat slowly, mindfully. You thank God for this simple provision. The afternoon is filled with more prayer, more chanting, more weaving. You are in a constant, rolling conversation with God, sometimes spoken aloud, sometimes silent. Historians still debate the exact prayer schedules of these solitary hermits. Unlike the communal monasteries with their strict bells for the canonical hours, your schedule was likely more fluid, guided by the sun and your own inner rhythm, but the core elements, the psalms and constant, quiet prayer, were universal. As the sun begins to set, you perform your evening prayers. You watch as the immense silent shadow of the western cliffs creeps across the valley floor, swallowing the world in darkness. The sky burns with color one last time before fading to a deep star-dusted indigo. You eat another small piece of bread. You chant the final psalms of the day. I will lay me down in peace and sleep. You lie down on your bed of grass. The day is over. It was almost identical to the day before, and it will be almost identical to the day tomorrow. It is a life stripped down to its absolute essence. Prayer, water, bread, work, and in this radical simplicity, this profound repeating, silence, you are creating a space, a quiet, empty space in your soul, waiting to be filled. Years pass in this slow, quiet rhythm. The sun rises, you pray, you weave, you pray. The sun sets, you pray. Your skin has been baked by the sun to the color and texture of old leather. Your beard, once trimmed in the style of the city, is now a long, unruly cascade of gray. You have become a creature of the desert, as much a part of the landscape as the rocks and the scrub brush. The noisy, striving man from Mira is a distant memory, a ghost from another life. You have found the silence you were seeking, and you believe this is how you will live out the rest of your days. In this predictable, solitary peace, you are wrong. One afternoon, you are sitting at the entrance of your cave, weaving a palm mat. Your mind half on the rhythm of your hands, half on a psalm, you are whispering to yourself. Suddenly, the silence is broken. It is not the familiar hiss of the wind or the skittering of a lizard. It is a sound that does not belong here, a sound from a nightmare. It is a low, guttural, vibrating roar that seems to shake the very stones around you. It is the sound of a lion. Your blood runs cold. You freeze, your hands still holding the palm fronds. A lion. You have heard their distant calls at night, but you have never seen one this close. They are the kings of this wasteland, the apex predator, and you are a soft, slow, solitary man. You are, in short, a perfect meal. You, slowly, cautiously, peer over the edge of your ledge. Down below, near the precious seep of water at the base of the cliff, stands a magnificent, full-grown male lion. Its coat is the color of the sand, its mane a dark, tangled thicket around its powerful head. It is the most terrifying and beautiful thing you have ever seen, but it is not looking for prey. It is not stalking. It is in obvious distress. The great beast is limping badly, holding one of its massive front paws up off the ground. It lets out another roar, but this time you hear a different quality to it. It is not a roar of aggression, but of pure, agonizing pain. It swings its great head back and forth, trying to lick at the injured paw, but it cannot reach. It is trapped in a cycle of pain and frustration. You watch, your heart pounding in your chest. The part of you that is still a creature of reason, the part that remembers the world, is screaming at you to stay hidden, to pull back into the darkness of your cave, to block the entrance with a rock, to wait for it to go away. It is a wild animal. It is danger incarnate, but the part of you that has spent years in quiet prayer, the part that has been softened by the solitude, feels something else. It feels pity. It sees not a monster, but a fellow creature of God, suffering and in need of help. The Desert Fathers taught that true love for God must extend to all of his creation, from the smallest insect to the greatest beast. It is one thing to believe that in theory, it is quite another to put it into practice when the fellow creature in question has teeth as long as your fingers. Historians and hagiographers have long debated the nature of these saint animal stories, which are common in the lives of the saints. Are they literal historical events, or are they beautiful allegories, meant to teach a deeper truth about the power of Christian love, to tame the wildness of nature and restore the peace of Eden? Maybe they are both. For you, sitting on your ledge, the theological debate is irrelevant. There is a lion, and it is in pain. You stay perfectly still, watching the beast. It sees you. Its great, golden eyes lock onto yours. There is no menace in its gaze, only a desperate, pleading agony. It takes a few hobbling steps closer to the base of your cliff and lets out a soft, low moan, a sound almost like a whimper. It is an appeal. It is a request. It is, you realize, with a sudden, stunning clarity, an act of trust. This wild king of the desert has, for some reason, decided that you, the strange, quiet creature in the cave, are its only hope, that the choice is yours. You can retreat into the safety of your own fear, or you can climb down the cliff and walk toward a wounded lion. You make your choice. You take a slow, deep breath, the desert air filling your lungs, and you begin the treacherous climb down from your cave. Every movement is deliberate. You do not rush. You place your feet carefully on the familiar ledges, your hands gripping the warm rock. The lion watches your every move, its golden eyes following your descent. It does not growl. It does not shift into a predatory stance. It simply waits, its massive body trembling slightly with pain. You reach the bottom of the cliff. You are now on the same level as the lion, standing perhaps 20 paces away. The sheer size of the animal is overwhelming. It is a mountain of muscle and fur. The air is thick with its scent, a wild musky odor that speaks of dust and power. Your heart is a frantic bird beating against your ribs, but you force your body to remain calm. You take another slow step forward. The lion lets out a low, soft rumble, and then it does something extraordinary. It lies down. It collapses onto the sand with a heavy sigh, and then it extends its injured paw towards you. It is a gesture of complete and utter surrender, a gesture of trust so profound it borders on the miraculous. It is offering you its wound. You walk the final few steps and kneel in the dust beside the great beast. You can feel the heat radiating from its body. You can hear its ragged, shallow breathing. You gently, so gently, take its massive paw into your hands. It is heavy, the pads rough and cracked like old leather. The paw is swollen and hot to the touch, and there, embedded deep between two of the great pads, is the source of all this agony. It is a long, viciously sharp thorn from an acacia tree, nearly the length of your little finger, and the flesh around it is red, angry, and weeping with infection. Now comes the delicate part. This is not a task for brute force. You have no surgical tools, you have only your hands, your wits, and a silent, fervent prayer. You speak to the lion, your voice low and calm, the same soothing tone you use when you chant your psalms. In the name of the Lord who made both you and me, you might whisper, let us be rid of this affliction. You grip the exposed end of the thorn with the calloused tips of your thumb and forefinger. It is slippery and lodged deep. The lion lets out a pained groan as you probe the wound, but it does not pull away. It does not snap. It holds perfectly still, its great eyes fixed on your face, trusting you. You take another deep breath and give a firm, steady pull. The thorn resists. Then, with a soft, sickening pop, it comes free. It is a foul-looking thing, dark with old blood. You toss it aside. The lion exhales a huge, shuddering sigh, a sound of immediate and profound relief. The worst of the pain is over, but the work is not done. The wound is open and dirty, a perfect invitation for the desert's myriad infections. You stand up and go to your precious seep of water. You cup your hands and bring water back to the lion, washing the wound as best you can. Then you do something that shows the depth of your desert knowledge. You gather a specific kind of herb you have seen growing near the rocks, a plant whose leaves, when crushed, release a soothing antiseptic sap. You chew the leaves into a soft green pulpa, simple poultice. You carefully pack this into the open wound. Finally, you take a strip of clean cloth you have torn from the edge of your own tunic, and you wrap it gently around the lion's paw, creating a simple, makeshift bandage. The surgery is complete. The lion, its paw now cleaned and bandaged, looks up at you. It licks your hand once. Its tongue is rough as sandpaper. Then, utterly exhausted from the pain and the relief, it lays its great head down on its uninjured paw and closes its eyes. It falls asleep at your feet, as trusting and vulnerable as a common house cat, and you sit there in the dust beside it, under the vast, silent sky, realizing that your life, your quiet, predictable, solitary life, has just changed forever. The sun sets, and you retreat to your cave for the night. The lion does not leave. It simply lifts its great head, watches you climb back up to your ledge, and then settles back down to sleep at the base of the cliff. A silent, powerful guardian at your door. You sleep more soundly that night than you have in years. The usual desert fears of scorpions, of jackals, of things that move in the dark are completely gone. You have a lion sleeping on your front porch. It's better than any deadbolt. In the morning, you come out of your cave, and the lion is there, waiting for you. Its limp is already less pronounced. It looks up at you with its intelligent amber eyes, and gives a low, soft rumble that you are beginning to interpret as a greeting, a sort of good morning in Latin speak. It then turns and limps off into the wilderness, disappearing behind a rocky outcropping. You assume it has gone to hunt, and you wonder if this is the last you will see of it. You feel a strange, unexpected pang of disappointment. You go about your morning rhythm. You pray, you fetch your water, you begin to weave. A few hours later, you hear a soft sound from the base of the cliff. You look down, and the lion has returned. It is carrying something in its great jaws, a freshly killed gazelle. It drops the carcass at the base of your cliff, looks up at you, expectantly, and then proceeds to begin its own meal. You stare, bewildered. You have become accustomed to your diet of dry bread and bitter herbs. You are a vegetarian by necessity and by ascetic principle. The lion, however, is not, and it seems to have every intention of sharing its hunt with you. It is offering you rent, paid in fresh meat. Historians and folklorists love this detail, a recurring theme in stories of animal gratitude. The wild creature repays a kindness by providing for its benefactor in the only way it knows how. It's a touching, if slightly awkward gesture. You, of course, politely decline the offering of raw gazelle, but you understand the sentiment. A bond has been formed, a partnership, and so, a new routine begins, one that layers itself over your old, solitary rhythm. The lion, which you decide to call Leo in your mind because you have to call him something, becomes your constant companion. It does not come into your small cave perhaps. It understands that the space is yours. Or perhaps, it just knows it wouldn't fit. It makes its den on the wide ledge just outside your entrance. Your life is now a strange, silent, domestic comedy. You have a roommate, a very large, very furry roommate, who doesn't help with the weaving and sheds all over the place. But he is remarkably considerate. He is quiet while you chant your psalms. He accompanies you on your walks to gather herbs, a formidable bodyguard trotting patiently at your side. He goes off to hunt for himself, and he never fails to bring back a portion of his kill and leave it hopefully at the entrance to your cave. A gift you never accept but always appreciate. Sometimes, other hermits or travelers will pass by in the distance. They see your cave, and they see the massive lion lying peacefully on the ledge outside, and they give your particular cliff a very, very wide berth. Your reputation as a holy man of great and mysterious power begins to grow without you ever speaking a word. Who but a true man of God could have a lion as a house pet? The most remarkable part of this new life is the silence. You do not speak to the lion in words, and it does not speak to you. Your companionship exists in a space beyond language. It is a communication of shared presence, of mutual trust. You learn to read its moods in the twitch of its ear or the flick of its tail. It learns to understand your rhythms, your times for prayer, and your times for work. It is the purest friendship you have ever known, uncomplicated by the pride, the jealousy, the misunderstandings that plague human relationships. You have come to the desert seeking a solitary encounter with God, and instead, God has given you a friend. You have fled the complex society of men, only to find yourself in a simple, profound society of two. You look at this magnificent beast, sleeping in a patch of sun on your doorstep, its great side rising and falling with each quiet breath, and you realize that the silence you once craved is no longer empty. It is full. It is full of a deep, quiet, and profoundly comforting love. Your quiet life with your leonine companion continues, a peaceful rhythm of prayer, weaving, and shared silence. But you are not entirely disconnected from the world of men. Not far from your solitary cave, nestled deeper in a protected wadi, is a small communal monastery. It is a lora, a collection of cells where monks live in relative solitude during the week, coming together only on Saturdays and Sundays for communal prayer and a shared meal. You are not officially part of their community, but you are a respected neighbor, and they are about to offer your roommate a job. The monastery owns a donkey. This is not a pet. It is a vital piece of communal equipment. It is their pickup truck, their cargo van, their lifeline to the world. Once a week, the monks load the donkey with empty water jugs and send it on the long, slow journey to a well several miles away. Or they load it with the mats and baskets they have woven and send it to a larger town to trade for essentials like grain, oil, and salt. The donkey is patient, sturdy, and absolutely essential to their survival. But the desert is a dangerous place for a lone, slow-moving donkey. It is vulnerable to predators, particularly the jackals and hyenas that roam the wilderness. The monks have lost donkeys before. So, one day, the abbot of the monastery, a wise old man who has heard the stories of your strange friendship, comes to visit you. He climbs the path to your cave, unafraid of the great lion lounging on the ledge. The lion, for its part, simply raises its head, looks at the abbot with a calm, discerning gaze, and seems to recognize him as a man of peace. The abbot approaches you, bows his head respectfully, and makes a proposal. Abba, he says, using the respectful term for a desert father, we see that God has sent you a powerful friend. Would you, and he, be willing to help our small community? He explains their problem with the donkey, and then he offers the lion a job. He asks if the lion would be willing to act as a guardian, to accompany the donkey on its weekly journeys, and protect it from harm. It is a strange job interview. You do not speak for the lion. Of course, you simply sit in silence. The lion, as if understanding the entire conversation, stands up, stretches its powerful limbs, and lets out a soft, affirmative rumble. The deal is struck, and so, a new routine begins. The strangest one yet. Every week, one of the monks leads the monastery's small, gray donkey up the path to your cave. The donkey, after an initial period of understandable terror, has grown accustomed to its enormous bodyguard. The lion, for its part, treats the donkey with a kind of patient, professional regard. You watch from your ledge as the procession begins. The donkey plods along the dusty path, its panniers empty or full depending on the day's task. And beside it, trotting with a slow, regal gait, is the lion. It is a sight that would stop any traveler in their tracks. A humble beast of burden, being escorted by the king of beasts. It's like seeing a pizza delivery guy being given a full Secret Service detail. The lion takes its new job very seriously. It does not wander off. It stays close to its charge, its eyes constantly scanning the rocky landscape for any sign of danger. If a pack of jackals appears on a distant ridge, drawn by the scent of the donkey, the lion doesn't even need to roar. It simply stops, raises its great head, and gives them a long, hard stare. The message is perfectly clear. This donkey is with me. Find somewhere else to be. The jackals, not being fools, melt back into the landscape. The donkey always returns to the monastery safe and sound. The monks are overjoyed. Their vital supply line is secure. They are immensely grateful to you and your powerful friend. As a sign of their thanks, they now leave a small portion of bread for you every week, and sometimes, a few vegetables from their meager garden. But they also leave something for the lion, a bowl of soft bread soaked in water. This is a detail that old storytellers love. The lion, the mighty hunter, the carnivore, is so gentle and integrated into this life of peace that it now happily accepts a portion of the monk's own simple, vegetarian fare. Historians might see this as a charming but fanciful embellishment, but for the monks who told this story, it was a crucial theological point. the lion is not just tamed, it has been converted. It has joined the monastic community, adopting their diet and performing a vital service. It is a living symbol of the peaceable kingdom, a glimpse of that promised time when the lion will lie down with the lamb or, in this case, walk patiently beside the donkey. This peaceful, productive routine continues for a long time. The lion guards the donkey carries the water, the monks pray and weave, and you remain in your cave, the quiet center of this strange little ecosystem. It is a perfect, harmonious system, and like all perfect systems, it is destined to be disrupted, not by a great evil, but by a moment of simple, mundane carelessness. One week, the monk in charge of the donkey is distracted. Perhaps he is deep in thought about a passage from Scripture, or perhaps he is simply weary from the desert heat. He loads the donkey with the water jugs as usual, and he sends it up the path to meet the lion. But he forgets to check the pen, forgets to ensure the ropes are secure. You watch from your cave, as the lion and the donkey set off on their journey to the distant well. The lion, as always, is diligent, watchful. The donkey, for its part, is content. The sun is warm, the path is familiar. It stops for a moment to graze on a particularly tempting patch of dry thistle at the side of the path. The lion, seeing no danger, allows its charge this small indulgence and lies down in the shade of a rock to wait. The donkey, however, wanders a little further than usual, drawn by the trail of thistles. It moves around a large bend in the canyon, out of the lion's line of sight for just a moment. And in that moment, a caravan of merchants, traveling from Arabia to the markets of Gaza, happens to be passing by on a parallel track. They see a lone donkey, healthy and strong, grazing by itself. They see no owner. To their pragmatic eyes, this is not a member of a monastic community. It is a stray, a piece of lost property, a fortunate windfall. They quickly and quietly lead the donkey away, incorporating it into their long line of camels. A short while later, the lion stands up, stretches, and realizes its charge is gone. It sniffs the air. It follows the donkey's tracks to the spot where they are suddenly jumbled with the tracks of many camels and men. The donkey has vanished. The lion, in its simple, honest mind, cannot conceive of theft. It only knows that it was given a job, and it has failed. The donkey has disappeared on its watch. It returns to the monastery alone, its great head hung low, its tail drooping. Its entire posture screams of shame and dejection. The monks see the lion returning without the donkey, and they immediately jump to the most obvious, and most incorrect, conclusion. The lion, their trusted guardian, has finally given in to its wild nature. It has eaten the donkey. A murmur of fear and accusation runs through the small community. The abbot comes out to meet the lion, his face a mask of sorrow and disappointment. "Oh, you who were our friend," he says, "how could you have done this? You have devoured our companion, our helper." The lion does not roar in protest. It does not try to defend itself. It simply stands before them, accepting their judgment. It is a profound moment of silent, undeserved shame. The monks, now convinced of its guilt, decide on a punishment. They will not drive the lion away or harm it. Their faith prevents that, but it must perform a penance. It must take the donkey's place. So they take the empty panniers, the heavy wooden framework that held the water jugs, and they place them on the lion's broad, powerful back. It is an awkward, undignified burden for the king of beasts. But the lion does not resist. It accepts the load. The monks then lead it to the well and back, forcing it to carry the heavy, sloshing jugs of water. Historians might question the plausibility of this. Could a lion truly be made to carry a load like a donkey? But again, for the storytellers, the literal truth is less important than the spiritual one. The lion, though innocent, humbly accepts the punishment for a sin it did not commit. It performs the donkey's menial labor without complaint. It is a living lesson in humility, in accepting unjust suffering, a theme that resonates deeply with Christian teachings. And so, day after day, the magnificent lion is seen trudging back and forth from the well, a beast of burden, its royal dignity replaced by a quiet, determined penance. The days turn into weeks. The lion, your noble friend, continues its humble, undeserved penance. Each day, it trudges to the well and back, the heavy water jugs strapped to its back, its magnificent gait reduced to a slow, burdened plod. Monks, their initial anger softened into a kind of sorrowful pity, treat it with a distant kindness. They still give it the soaked bread, but the easy companionship is gone, replaced by a wall of misunderstanding. The lion has become a living symbol of fallen nature, a reminder of the wildness that can never be fully trusted. You watch all of this from your cave with a heavy heart. You alone know the lion is innocent. You see its profound sadness, the way its spirit seems to have dimmed, but you cannot speak for it. This is a trial the lion must endure on its own. You can only pray, your psalms now carrying a new weight, a new plea for justice and truth to be revealed. One day, the lion has finished its water-carrying duties and is resting in the shade near the monastery gate. Its penance for the day is done. But instead of returning to your cave, it stands up and looks out across the vast desert, its gaze fixed on some distant point you cannot see. Its nostrils twitch, sniffing the air. A low growl rumbles in its chest, but this is not a sound of sadness. It is a growl of recognition, of gathering purpose. Without a backward glance, it sets off at a determined trot, heading out into the wilderness. The monks see it leave and assume it is simply wandering off. But you, watching from your high ledge, see the focus in its movement. This is not a random stroll, this is a hunt. But it is not hunting for food, it is hunting for the truth. The lion travels for a long time, following a scent on the wind, a trail of memory. And then, in the distance, it sees them, the caravan of merchants. They have made camp for the night, their camels kneeling in a circle, their tents set up against the desert wind. And they're tethered with the camels, looking tired and miserable. Is the monastery's lost donkey. The lion does not charge in with a roar of fury. It does not attack the merchants or their camels. It uses a far more intelligent and intimidating tactic. It begins to circle their camp, staying just outside the ring of firelight, a huge, shadowy shape moving in the darkness. Then it lets out a single, deafening, territorial roar that echoes through the canyon. The effect is immediate and absolute. The camels, smelling their ancient enemy, panic. They bellow, they spit, they pull at their tethers. The merchants, startled from their sleep, rush out of their tents in a state of terror. They see the massive lion, a silhouette against the moonlit sky, and they assume they are under attack. They have no interest in fighting a lion for the sake of one stolen donkey. In a panic, they abandon their camp, fleeing into the darkness, leaving everything behind. The lion, its work done, calmly walks into the deserted camp. It goes directly to the terrified donkey and, with a gentle nudge of its great head, begins to lead it out of the camp and back toward the monastery. But it does not just bring the donkey. In an act of quiet, almost humorous justice, it also herds the merchants' heavily laden camels along with it. The next morning, the monks at the monastery are greeted by an unbelievable sight. There at the gate is the lion. Behind it is their beloved donkey, safe and sound. And behind the donkey is a long neat line of camels, all loaded with the merchants' abandoned good spices, textiles, and other valuable trade items. The monks are stunned into silence. They stare at the donkey, then at the camels, then at the lion, who stands there patiently, its expression calm and dignified. The truth dawns on them in a sudden, humbling wave. The lion was not a murderer, it was a victim of circumstance. It was innocent. They have misjudged it completely. The abbot walks forward and prostrates himself on the ground before the lion, a gesture of profound apology. The other monks follow his example. They beg forgiveness from the noble beast they have wronged. The lion, for its part, simply looks at them, lets out a soft, chuffing sound, and nudges the donkey forward, as if to say, "My job is done. Now, can someone please take this ridiculous harness off my back? Its honor has been restored." The return of the donkey and the arrival of the penitent camels solidifies your friend's status from a strange pet to a local legend. The monks, deeply ashamed of their misjudgment, now treat the lion with a reverence bordering on awe. They see it not just as an animal, but as a teacher, a living lesson in humility, loyalty, and forgiveness. The story of its silent penance and triumphant vindication becomes a favorite tale told in the monastery, a story that will be written down and passed on for generations. Watching all this from the quiet solitude of your cave, begin to contemplate the deeper meaning of what has happened. You did not come to the desert to tame a lion, you came to tame yourself. You came to do battle with the pride, the anger, the impatience, the wild beasts that lived within your own soul. And now, you see that God, in His strange and gentle wisdom, has given you an external mirror for this internal struggle. This friendship with a wild animal, you realize, is a taste of something ancient and long lost. It is a glimpse of Eden. You reflect on the story of creation, on the garden where Adam and Eve lived in perfect harmony with all of nature. In that original, unfallen state, the story goes, there was no fear between man and beast. Adam gave names to all the animals, and they lived together as a peaceable kingdom. The lion did not hunger for the lamb, and man did not fear the serpent. All of creation was a single, unified family, living in tranquil fellowship with its creator. But, with the fall, with humanity's turn away from God, that harmony was shattered. Fear entered the world. Man began to dominate and exploit nature, and nature, in turn, became a source of danger and terror for man. The wolf became a threat to the shepherd, the snake a venomous foe. The wild places became something to be feared and conquered, not lived in. The story of human civilization, in many ways, has been the story of that broken relationship. But here, in the vast, purifying emptiness of the desert, something of that original harmony can be restored. This is a core belief of the Desert Fathers. They taught that as a monk or hermit purifies their own soul, as they root out the beastly passions within themselves, they also begin to heal the brokenness in the world around them. As you become more Christ-like, you become more like the unfallen Adam. And as you regain that inner peace, the animals can sense it. They no longer see you as a threat, as a fallen, unpredictable human. They see a glimmer of the original man, the gentle steward of creation they were meant to befriend. Historians and theologians still discuss this fascinating aspect of early monastic thought. These stories of saints befriending wild animals like Saint Kevin of Glendalough letting a blackbird nest in his hand, or Saint Columba commanding the Loch Ness monster to retreat are not just charming fairy tales, they are serious theological statements. They are demonstrations of a saint's holiness. The ultimate proof that a man has conquered the sin in his own heart is that the wild beasts of the field will recognize his purity and submit to him in peace. Your friendship with the lion is a living embodiment of this theology. You did not tame it with a whip or a chain. You tamed it with an act of selfless charity, by healing its wound. You conquered its wildness not with force, but with love. In that single act of compassion, you momentarily restored the peace of Eden. You crossed the chasm of fear that has separated your two species for millennia. You look at the lion, now resting peacefully on its ledge. Its great, scarred paw healed completely. It is still a wild animal. You have not turned it into a pet. You have simply entered into a relationship of mutual respect and trust. It is a friendship between two solitaries, two kings of their own small domains, you in your cave, the lion in its wilderness. You are a quiet embassy, representing the lost harmony between man and nature. And in the silent companionship you share, you have found a deeper, more profound form of prayer than you ever knew existed. The years continue to spool out in the slow, unchanging rhythm of the desert. Your body, once strong, is now stooped and frail. Your long beard is no longer gray, but as white as the desert salt flats. You are a very old man. The climb up and down the cliff face to your cave has become a slow, painful ordeal. Your hands, gnarled with arthritis, can no longer weave the palm fronds with their former dexterity. Most of your days are now spent in quiet prayer, sitting at the entrance to your cave. Your loyal friend, the lion, resting faithfully at your side. The lion, too, is old. Its sandy coat is now threaded with gray. The dark, magnificent mane has faded. Its movements are slower, stiffer. The great golden eyes are sometimes clouded with age. It no longer roams the deep desert on long hunts. It spends most of its time sleeping in the sun on your ledge, a warm, reassuring presence. The fierce king of the desert and the fiery ascetic from the city have grown old together. They have become two gentle grandfathers, content to doze in the sun and enjoy their quiet, shared memories. You know your time is short. You can feel the life slowly ebbing from you, a tide going out for the last time. There is no fear. You have spent a lifetime preparing for this journey, this final anachroresis from the wilderness of the world to the homeland of the soul. You have made your peace with God and with His creation, a peace embodied by the magnificent creature sleeping beside you. One evening, as the sun sets, painting the desert in its final, glorious colors, you call the lion to you. It comes and lays its great gray-muzzled head upon your lap. You stroke its coarse, familiar fur. One last time, you whisper. A final blessing, a final prayer of thanks for its long years of loyal friendship. Then you lie back on your bed of grass, you close your eyes, and with the sound of your friend's soft, rumbling purr in your ears, you commend your spirit to God. The abbot of the nearby monastery, the one who gave the lion its job, has a dream. That night, in the dream, he sees a vision of angels descending from heaven with a golden litter, coming to your cave, and then ascending again, carrying a soul shining with a brilliant light. He knows, with the certainty of faith, what this means. The next morning, the abbot and two of his monks make the journey to your cave. When they arrive, they find the lion sitting sentinel at the entrance, its head bowed. It lets out a low mournful sound, a sound of profound, heart-wrenching grief. The monks enter the cave and find your body, cold and still, a faint, peaceful smile on your lips. They prepare to give you a simple monastic burial, but they face a problem. The ground here is not the soft earth of the river valley. It is rock-hard, baked by centuries of sun, or it is loose, shifting sand. They do not have the proper tools, the shovels and picks to dig a grave deep enough to protect your body from the desert scavengers. They stand there, distressed and unsure of what to do. The lion, seeing their distress and understanding their purpose with its strange, silent intelligence, stands up. It goes to a spot on the sandy ground, a few paces from the entrance of your cave, and it begins to dig. It does not use its claws, which are made for tearing, but its great, broad paws. It works like a giant, powerful dog, sending huge scoops of sand and gravel flying into the air. It digs for hours, its old muscles straining, until it has excavated a hole deep enough for a man to be laid to rest. It has, with its last great act of devotion, dug its master's grave. Historians and literary scholars point out that this motif, the loyal animal digging its master's graves, an ancient one, found in many cultures, it is a powerful symbol of ultimate fidelity. But for the monks who witnessed it, it was no mere symbol, it was a miracle. It was the final, undeniable proof of the love that bound the saint and the beast. They look on in stunned, reverent silence, their hearts filled with a mixture of sorrow for your passing and awe at the loyalty of your incredible friend. The monks, their hearts filled with a solemn awe, gently wrap your frail body in a clean linen shroud. They carry you from the cave that was your home for so many decades and lay you to rest in the grave your friend has so lovingly prepared. The lion watches the entire proceeding with a quiet, heartbreaking dignity. It does not interfere. It simply sits as silent chief mourner at the funeral. They chant the prayers for the dead, their voices rising and falling in the vast desert silence. The words of the Psalms, the words that have been the very architecture of your life, are the last sounds to echo over your earthly remains. When the prayers are finished, the monks slowly, carefully, fill in the grave, creating a simple mound of sand and stone to mark the spot. The abbot plants a simple, rough wooden cross at its head. Your burial is complete. The monks, their duty done, turn to leave. They expect the lion to now return to its wild ways, to finally abandon this place of men, and go back to the deep desert, from which it came. The abbot offers a final prayer for the noble beast and for the repose of your soul, and they begin their walk back to their monastery, but the lion does not leave. It walks over to the freshly made grave, to the simple mound of earth that now holds its friend. It lies down upon it, its great body covering the earth as if to protect you one last time, or perhaps simply to be as close to you as it can possibly be. It lays its great gray-muzzled head upon the earth, directly over the place where your heart now rests, and it lets out a single, low, mournful roar, a sound, not of pain or anger, but of a grief so profound it seems to make the very air tremble. The monks, hearing this from a distance, stop and look back. They see the lion, a solitary, grieving figure, keeping its lonely vigil at your grave. They understand. The lion will not be leaving. Days pass. The lion does not hunt. It does not drink from the seep. It refuses all food and water. The monks try to bring it. It simply lies on your grave, its life's purpose now gone, its great heart broken. It slowly, quietly, begins to waste away. It is performing the ultimate act of loyalty, a fast unto death, refusing to live in a world that no longer contains its friend. This final detail of the story is the one that has moved listeners for centuries. It is the part that elevates the legend from a charming tale into a profound tragedy. The love between the man and the beast was so complete that one could not survive without the other. Finally, after several days, the lion gives one last soft sigh, and its great heart ceases to beat. It dies there, on your grave. A final, silent testament to a friendship that transcended the boundaries of species, a love stronger than the instincts of survival. The monks return and find the lion's body, as still and peaceful as your own. They are filled with an immense sadness, but also with a sense of sacred awe. They know they have witnessed something holy. They do not cast the lion's body out into the desert. They dig a second grave, right next to yours, and they bury the faithful beast beside the master it loved so well. And so you lie there, for all of time, side by side in the silent desert sand, the holy man who fled the world of men, and the wild beast who taught him the meaning of friendship, two solitaries united in life, and now, finally, united in death. The story, it would seem, is over. But the story is not over. A story is only truly over when it is forgotten, and this one was too strange and too beautiful to forget. The abbot and the monks of the nearby monastery become the first keepers of your legend. They are the witnesses. They tell the tale to the pilgrims and travelers who pass through their remote corner of the wilderness. The story is told orally at first, passed from one person to another around a flickering campfire, or in the quiet of the monastery's refectory. With each telling, the story is polished and shaped. The hermit is given a name, often Gerasimus, though sometimes Jerome or Zosimus, as the tale attaches itself to different famous desert saints. The details become more vivid. The lion's roar becomes more fearsome, its gratitude more profound, its loyalty more heartbreaking. The story travels along the trade routes, carried in the minds of merchants and monks, making its way from the deserts of Palestine to the great cities of Constantinople and Antioch, and from there, to the wider world. Eventually, a monk in a scriptorium, a man whose name is now lost to history, decides that this story is too precious to be trusted to the fragile medium of human memory. He takes a carefully prepared sheet of parchment, dips his quill in ink, and writes it down. This is the crucial moment of preservation. The story is now fixed, captured in the elegant, careful script of a manuscript. It becomes part of a collection of tales known as the Apothegmata Patrum, or the Sayings of the Desert Fathers. This collection becomes a medieval bestseller. It is copied and recopied, translated from Greek into Latin, Syriac, and eventually into the emerging languages of Europe. Your story, the tale of the man and his lion, becomes a favorite, a beloved classic of Christian folklore. It is read aloud to monks in their monasteries, a lesson in humility and compassion. It is told to children as a bedtime story, a tale of kindness to animals. And, most beautifully, it becomes a subject for artists. You and your lion begin to appear in the luminous, jewel-toned colors of illuminated manuscripts. You are carved into the stone portals of cathedrals. You are painted onto the wooden panels of church icons. In these artworks, the lion is almost always at your feet, looking up at you with an expression of soulful devotion. Sometimes it is shown carrying the water jugs. Sometimes it is shown digging your grave. It becomes your iconographic symbol. Just as St. Peter has his keys and St. Catherine her wheel, you, the desert hermit, have your lion. It is your instantly recognizable logo. A brand identity built on a friendship. For centuries, this is where you live in, the quiet, sacred world of manuscripts and icons. But as the medieval world gives way to the modern, your story, like so many others, begins to fade. The age of reason and science has less patience for tales of talking animals and miracles. Your story becomes quaint, a charming relic of a more credulous age, but it never disappears completely. It survives, waiting, quietly, and now, in our own time, we can look back at this ancient tale and see it with new eyes. We can see it not just as a story about a saint, but as a profound ecological parable about our broken relationship with the natural world. We can see it as a psychological drama about confronting our own inner beasts. We can see it as a simple, powerful testament to the fact that friendship can be found in the most unlikely of places. The physical cave is gone, lost to the shifting desert sands. The monastery is a pile of ruins. The bones of the man and the lion have long since turned to dust, but the story remains. The story you are listening to right now is a direct, unbroken thread stretching back nearly 2,000 years, from a lonely cave in the Judean desert to a monastery scriptorium to a medieval cathedral, and now, finally, to you, lying in your bed in the quiet of your own room. The echo of the lion's roar and the hermit's whispered psalm has traveled all this way to find you. A gentle story to ease you into sleep. The heat of the desert sun begins to cool now. The sharp edges of the rocks soften in the twilight of your imagination. The story has been told. You can let the figures of the old man and his loyal friend begin to fade, their journey complete. Let them rest, side by side, in the quiet earth. Their long watch is over. The silence they shared in the desert is now yours to enjoy. It's a gentle, welcoming silence, not an empty one. It's the quiet at the end of a long day, the peace that settles when the world finally stops asking anything of you. There are no more trials to endure, no more duties to perform. There is only the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing. Feel the tension, leave your shoulders. Let go of the thoughts of the day. They can wait. They are just stories, and their time is over for now. A different kind of story is beginning, the quiet, mysterious story of your own rest. Let the darkness be a soft, warm blanket. Let the silence be a gentle hum. Let yourself drift on that quiet current, down into the deep, peaceful, and healing sleep that is waiting for you. End of script. Sweet dreams.